Good morning, everyone, and welcome to church on this cold day. At least if you're on the East Coast, it's very cold out, and we are waiting the snowstorm that's been making its way across the Midwest, and we'll have a nice snowstorm. Wherever you're joining us from, we are so glad that you have joined us this morning at First Parish in Concord for our worship service. I'm Reverend Howard Dana, and I'm happy to be with you this morning. I was on vacation for a couple of weeks. That was wonderful, much needed rest, and it's good to be back with you this morning. Welcome to church this morning. We know folks are gathering in and around Concord and across the United States, and in fact, from other parts of the world. So wherever you have tuned in from, know that you are part of our congregation this morning, and we want to warmly welcome you to church. We're going to see who else is here helping lead church this morning. Jade Sylvan is here, our ministerial intern.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here I'm in Cambridge, but close to you all.
And Adrienne Pettencourt is here, our social action manager.
Looking forward to welcoming you guys all to the greater UU social action world today.
And Reverend Liz Weber, our minister for pastoral care.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to church. I'm glad you're here.
Reverend Amy Freeman, our minister for religious education.
Good morning. Our children met this morning to celebrate friendship, and we send you a big hug.
And Amy's faithful companion, Dawn Van Patten, is here.
Good morning, everyone. It's warming me up just to be here with you. So thank you for that, and happy Sunday.
And we have Beth Norton here, providing all kinds of music and video today.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you today.
And Lily Van Patten is on tech today. So glad you're here, Lily.
Good morning, everybody. Great to be here.
This month, our theme is interreligious connections, interfaith work, and how Unitarian Universalism fits into that wider religious world. So I've chosen a call to worship this morning from the Muslim tradition. This is from the poet Sadi. He says, "To worship God is nothing other than to serve the people. It does not need rosaries, prayer carpets, or robes. All peoples are members of the same body, created from one essence. If fate brings suffering to one member, the others cannot stay at rest." Let us worship together. And let us now light our chalices.
In times of uncertainty, rituals ground us and connect us. And one of the ways that we know that we're in a Unitarian Universalist space, or that we create a worship space together, is that we light a chalice. And so this morning I invite you to grab a chalice or a candle in your home and to light it, and let us together create this worship space. Please join me in our chalice response. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. And now I should introduce the opening hymn and invite you to, to join us in the opening song. This is the hymn, Bring Many Names, which when we are together in person, we tend to divide up and invite younger folks to sing about the young growing God, and older folks to sing about old aging God, and people who are mothers to sing about the strong mother, and fathers to sing about the warm father. And I am delighted that members of our congregation have contributed photographs so that rather than hearing all those different voices, we will see images of. So I invite you, please, to join in singing Bring Many Names.
a beautiful video. I loved seeing your pictures. I really miss hugging you and doing high fives together. And I know we can kind of high five and we can kind of like hug, but it's just not the same. And that's one of the things that's hard about the pandemic. But I want to tell you, the person who I know who is the best at these virtual or energetic hugs, like not even like this, is my friend Elseer. He hugs like this. And he's really good at it. And when Elseer gives me an energetic hug, I can really feel it. And it feels like a hug where we're actually touching. It's really special. Now, Elseer and I have been friends just for a few years now. We met when we were both chaplains at a big hospital in Boston. So we worked there at the hospital together. That's how we got to know each other. We would go visit patients who were there and their families, and we would listen to them and pray together if they wanted, and hopefully help them feel a little bit more peace or happiness while they were there in the hospital. Now, I am a Unitarian Universalist, as we all are here at First Parish in Concord, and Elseer is a Muslim. His religion is Islam. And there are some things that our religions share, like we all, as Unitarian Universalists and as Muslims, we care about other people very much. And we want to figure out how to lead a good ethical life, how to make good choices and treat each other fairly. There are other ways that our religions are pretty different. So, for example, I go to church on Sunday mornings, and Elseer goes to his mosque on Friday afternoons. Another example of how we're different is whether it's okay to touch someone. In Islam, it's okay to touch people in your family, but for many people who are Muslim, they don't touch people who are different genders who are not in their family, because that's part of how they can show respect as Muslims. That's part of their religious teachings. It's pretty different from Unitarian Universalists, but it's cool to know how that works in their religion so that I can respect their practices. So, for example, if you meet someone who's Muslim and they don't, you can kind of follow their lead about whether they reach out for a handshake or a high five. And if not, you could put your hand on your heart. It might be hard to see with my scarf here, but you just put your hand on your heart and maybe bow a little bit, but just your hand on your heart is a good way. It's like a handshake without touching, a way of greeting someone respectfully. And so Elseer, he does this. He does these hugs. He does them so well. He does them so well because he's been practicing them his whole life, not just these 10 months that we've been practicing them during the pandemic. But he's really good at them. And I like being friends with Elseer because he's very caring and also very strong. And we like to joke with each other and tease each other just a little bit in a friendly way. He calls me young lady, I call him old man. And I love seeing pictures of his granddaughter. And I've learned a lot from him, and he's learned a lot from me, because we have these ways that we're different from each other and get to learn from each other. One of the things, of course, is how to do a good virtual hug. And I think the secret, and we can all practice this together, is to hug with your heart instead of just your hands. Just reaching out your heart. Of course, if you were in Reconnect today, you can use those craft hands that Amy and Dawn made. And I love those. They're so good. Those felt like a real hug to me too. So if you've got those, or if you don't, no matter how old you are, I invite you to just practice right now with your paper hands or your real hands, but with your real heart either way, just reaching out for a good, energetic hug. And let's sing together.
Let us go open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And may we walk in peace.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Beth. For our reading today, I actually have a chart to show you. This is a tool that I discovered a few years ago, and I know some of you know about it too, but it's a whole new way of kind of thinking about where we might be and where we might like to go in intercultural competency. So Lily's going to put up that chart, and I'm going to talk you through it for our reading this morning. So this is the Intercultural Development Continuum. And the idea here is that no matter who we are and no matter where we start out life, we probably start out in a pretty tight-knit circle. Now that might be expanded quite quickly for some people or really slowly for other people, depending on what kind of family you're born into or where you live in the world. And that one of the ways to really be a citizen of a global citizen, a citizen of the world, is to move your way up this chart. So you can see clear over on the left-hand side, there's a place called denial. Then we move to polarization, then minimization, acceptance, and adaptation. And this chart shows everything going in one direction. Let me tell you, you can kind of go forward and backward, and not all of us move seamlessly from one to the other. But many of us were probably born or raised in a place that had a fair amount of denial, that said that cultural difference was something that was for other people, and that our people were not going to mix with some other folks. And so one of the hallmarks of denial is that it misses difference. It says, my culture and my way of doing things is the best, and other people might do it a different way, but mine is superior. Then as you sort of learn more about the world, folks generally move to something called polarization. And that's where you can see difference. And this comes in two types. Either difference is bad, my way is right, and other people's ways of doing things is wrong, or just the opposite, that other people actually have the best way, the right way to do things, and my way is inferior, that my culture is somehow inferior. And then you move on to minimization. Now, minimization is the place where we say, oh, well, everybody's really just the same. And it de-emphasizes difference. It says, oh, all humans are the same. We all have the same wants and needs. We all have the same way of approaching things. And we all want to, get along. Well, this may or may not be true. Minimization, though, is a long ways from denial and even polarization, but it's also a place where folks can get a little bit stuck. If you can move on past minimization, you can get to acceptance. Now, in acceptance, you deeply comprehend cultural differences. So you can see where you've come from, what your culture is like, and you can also clearly see the culture of other people. And you start to really appreciate that. You start to understand more deeply that other people may have a different way of doing something. They might have different beliefs. They might have different customs. And you start to accept that. The world is getting bigger and more complex. And then if you can keep moving all the way to adaptation, that means that you can actually bridge across differences. Now, this is a tricky thing to do, and not everybody does it all the time. And sometimes you do it in some situations, but can't manage it in others. So in adaptation, you are able to be with other folks, and you actually can code switch a little bit. You can enter into someone else's culture in a very authentic way while not losing any aspect of your own. And this is a pretty amazing place to be, because if you can get all the way to adaptation, at least in some situations, it means that you can really start understanding folks and where they come from. And the beautiful part is that they will understand you as well. The last thing I want to kind of point out on this chart is that I think that probably First Parish and Concord and probably most of Unitarian Universalism is somewhere around minimization. And remember, I said that it was easy to get stuck in minimization. Well, that is absolutely the truth. Minimization is kind of a comfortable place to be. And what I hope we will do through our work at First Parish and through the leadership of myself and other lay leaders is that we will nudge ourselves out of minimization, and we'll head more and more and more to acceptance and then on to adaptation. Because if we can get past minimization and truly see cultural differences, racial differences, differences for people of different sexual orientations, transgender differences, all of those kinds of things, if we can move to acceptance and to adaptation, then we will be ready and we will be truly welcoming to folks if we can get past minimization. So I wanted to show you that chart. Thank you very much, Lily, for putting that up. If you want to know more, you can just look up the IDC on, you can just Google it and find lots of information about that. So I want to tell you a little bit about one of the most magical, interesting nights of my life. I was traveling in India with a group of friends. It was a small group. We were mostly Unitarian Universalists and we were mostly ministers. And we were just about halfway through kind of a whirlwind tour of northern India. And we found ourselves in the city of Varanasi. Now, Varanasi is one of the holiest cities in all of India. It sits right on the edge of the Ganges River. It's also known as Banaras. The two names are just used interchangeably. And Varanasi is a holy, holy city because it's the place where people want to go to die, and they want to be cremated, and they want to have their remains put into the Ganges River. Now, the Ganges is holy from its very headwaters clear to the ocean. The whole length and breadth of it is holy. For Indians and folks even in Nepal, it is considered a holy being. The river is a being. The river is a goddess, and it is worshipped. But at Varanasi, this is one of the holiest spots along the river. So that evening when we arrived in Varanasi, we checked into our hotel room and fairly quickly after dinner went down to the banks of the Ganges. And it was starting to get dark and there were people gathering. Literally thousands of people were gathering from all over the city. Now, as tourists, we were in the severe minority. There were very few non-Indians gathering there at the river. But we were welcome to come on down, and folks led us through the crowds. The crowds were getting thicker and thicker. And then what started happening there on the banks of the river, there were various holy men, and this probably stretched for about a mile or so. And they were all sitting on their own little platforms, and they were sometimes surrounded by monks in training, and they were starting to do Hindu rituals. And some of them involved fire, and some of them involved fruit, a lot, and other food. A lot of them involved music and singing and chanting. And as the crowd grew and as night fell, you could look across the Ganges and you could see boats out on it. You could see little twinkling lights. And it was as if the whole riverbank was absolutely alive. And then it started to just get a rhythm. And all of the music started to be in the same rhythm. And the chanting started to be in the same rhythm. And people started swaying and moving in the same rhythm. And it was absolutely magical to see this. Some vendors came along and they had these beautiful little leaf boats. There was a leaf and then there was some flowers around it. And in the middle of it, there was a votive candle. And so you could buy one of these little leaf boats for just a little bit of money. And then you were invited to go down to the edge of the water and to light the candle and then to send your little leaf boat out into the Ganges. Lots and lots of people were doing this, and so we did as well. And it was very sweet to buy a little leaf boat from a woman and to take it down. I'm not Hindu, so I didn't quite know what other people were thinking and doing with their leaf boats. What I was doing and thinking with my leaf boat was very Unitarian Universalist. I was lighting a candle, a chalice, if you will. I was putting it out into this beautiful piece of nature, this mighty river. And it was such a strange moment to be in this beautiful, beautiful place, surrounded by thousands of other people who were bringing their own religious meaning to this night, that they were doing it in a Hindu way. And I wasn't doing it in a Hindu way at all. I mean, I wouldn't have known the first thing to do in a Hindu way, having not been raised Hindu. But there I was a UU, and I knew what I believed. And I knew that my candle had significance in amid all of those other candles. And as the little boats went out on the river, and the river's flowing by, so they were coming down from up above, and you could see them. It was this whole flotilla of little candles surrounded by flowers on these little leaf boats. And it felt like a fairly mystical moment of unity. Now, we've all been in religious ceremonies where we were outsiders, we were strangers. Lots of us have been to, say, a Catholic wedding or a Catholic funeral, and sometimes we know the words and sometimes we don't know the words. A lot of us have gone to bar and bat mitzvah services or Jewish celebrations, and again, a whole lot of it can be in Hebrew. And so it's not unusual for us, particularly Unitarian Universalists, to find ourselves where we're amid another religion's ritual or ceremony. And we go along because we're really interested in it, but we're not quite sure what's going on, and it's not exactly what we might have chosen. But one of the things about being global citizens is that this acceptance that there are other ways of doing things, and this ability to just go along, to go with the flow, if you will, is a marvelous way of being. Now, I mentioned minimization, and I mentioned it for a reason, because I think that Unitarian Universalism is growing and changing. And one of the things that we're growing and changing in is our understanding of how to be with the other religions of the world. I think that there was probably a time in which we did too much minimization, just saying, oh, well, we're all really UUs, but, we just do it in a Jewish way or we do it in a Buddhist way. And I think it's a little bit more complex than that. And the title of today's sermon is that we are not all the same. And I think it's really helpful in a 21st century world to realize that we are not all the same. And it made me think of an old joke. This is an old Emo Phillips joke. And I found it this morning on the internet. And I changed the setting, but listen to this joke because it kind of gets at what I'm saying. So Emo says, I once met this guy on an airplane. He said he was so depressed that he didn't want to go on. He said, nobody loves me. I said, God loves you. Do you believe in God? He said, I used to believe in God. I said, were you a Christian or a Jew? He said, a Christian. I said, me too. Protestant or Catholic? He said, Protestant. Me too. What franchise? Baptist. Me too. Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist? He said, Northern Baptist. Me too. Northern Conservative Baptist or Northern Liberal Baptist? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes region or Northern Conservative Baptist Eastern region? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes region. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1879 or Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912. I said, heretic! Flight attendant, reseat me. You can watch Emo tell it on YouTube, and it's very funny. It's hard to do comedy when you can't hear the audience, but my colleagues are all laughing. This joke gets to the point of how we are not all the same. In fact, if you look at the history of religion, it's been slicing it and slicing it so thin that you can tell a joke in which the punchline is Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912. You don't get any more specific than that. And the point of the joke, of course, is that we all really spend a lot of time thinking about what we believe. And we are brought up in a culture that is designed to sort of pick out the differences. And especially with a social media culture like we have, you can live in the smallest, tiniest bubble if you want to. And the point of actually being human and being religious is actually to open oneself up and to accept other people. Now, I think Unitarian Universalists also sometimes suffer from something I call holy envy. Sometimes we think that other religions are more real than ours. We sometimes think that their practices have more meaning or that they're deeper or older. And so we get a little bit envious. And what this does is that sometimes it makes us want to go and kind of pick and choose and bring in things that aren't necessarily authentically us, but we think that they have value because we're a little bit envious of them. And so the other side of this coin, this other side of being a global citizen, is to know very well what you believe and why you believe it. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't change over time, but it's something that is core to you. One of the things I have admired all of the time that I've been a Unitarian Universalist is the way that one can be sincerely an atheist or an agnostic or a humanist or have Christian views or more Jewish views and bring all of that specificity to a religion that doesn't envy others, but wants, in fact, to sit at the table with everyone else. The beautiful thing that I know is that God is big enough for all of humanity, that there is a way of being religious for every single person on this planet, and that all seekers of whatever tradition will find their way to the core of their faith, and they will also find their way to understanding people of other faiths. God is big and complex and unknowable and even unnameable. And this is an amazing thing. God is so big and complex and unknowable and unnameable that God might not even exist. And how amazing is that? But we exist, you and I, we are here and we share this planet with billions of other people. Because the trick is really to know who we are, to be firm in our beliefs, to know why we have them, but to also be open to the beliefs of others, to be open to be changed as we need to be changed, and to be able to work with other folks and to see them and to appreciate them and to listen to them in this great multi-religious world in which we live. That is adaptation. That is the glowing promise of Unitarian Universalism. So be it. Amen. I'd love for you to write in the chat now if you'll name a religious practice from another religion that you appreciate, but that you do not do. This is not part of your own spiritual practice. Write that in the chat. Lily's going to put up a slide. Name a practice from another religion you appreciate, but do not do yourself. And then I'll read a few of them. Okay, let's see what is here. I love this crowdsourcing part of our service. So these are some things: ancestor worship, praying 5 times a day as in Islam, smudging, speaking in tongues, full prostration, praying the rosary, confession, burning incense, bathing in Mother Ganga, chanting, fasting, whirling dervishes, the Seder, greeting people with namaste, Zen meditation. There's lots of repeats in here. You can look at them in the chat. Bowing to the east, Holy Communion. Lots of different things listed here. I invite you to go back through and see what other folks have said. Thank you all very much. Now we're going to hear a song. This is All Lifted Hearts, and it's from the 2006 Unitarian Universalist cantata Sources, written by Jason Shelton and Kendall Gibbons. This movement was inspired by a quote from a sermon by Forrest Church. He said, "One light, Unitarianism, shines through many windows, universalism, illuminating human minds and hearts in many different ways. In our congregations, we honor this truth by encouraging our members to reflect on the light through whatever set of windows they find most illuminating. We only require that this same freedom be honored for others." Let us hear All Lifted Hearts.
In the Hindu legend of the Mahabharata, the divine Krishna declared, "This is the sum of duty. Do nothing unto others which would cause you pain if done to you." It is written, it is taught, may it be so. In the Gospel of Matthew, in the Christian scriptures, the Messiah Jesus says, "Whatever you wish that others would do to you, do so to them."
In the Buddhist text of the Uddhana, the student is urged, "Hurt not in ways that you yourself would find hurtful." May it be so.
Free.
justice of Taoism, the seeker is instructed, regard your neighbor's gain as your gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss.
It is written, it is true, may it be so.
In ancient wisdom of Shinto, there is a saying, the heart of the person before you is a mirror. See there your own form.
The Oglala Lakota spiritual leader, Black Elk, wrote, all humans are our relatives. What we do to everything, we do to ourselves. It is written, it is taught, may it be so.
Every week we come together to share concerns and joys of members of our community. Because we are now broadcasting on YouTube, I'm only going to share the first name of the person, and Lily is going to paste the rest into the chat, so you can check the chat for more information. But today our hearts are with Meryl. And now you are welcome to share in the chat anybody who is on your heart, and it doesn't need to be a mourning or a concern, it can be a joy as well. pray with me? Dear God, we seek you in many names, parent, child, sibling, excuse me, God. Thanks. Parent, child, sibling, friend. We know that you are reflected in us in each of these roles and relationships, and that in turn we are reflected back in you. God of peaceful darkness and radiant light, God of still silence and vibrant noise, may we rejoice in the variety of this world. May we learn not to minimize our differences, but may we honor cultural differences in the vast, complex, and beautiful world. May we move toward an intercultural mindset where those with privilege work to adapt to others rather than expecting them to adapt themselves. May we remember that we are small and the world is large, and there are wonders waiting for us in every face we encounter if we can be humble enough to wait, to ask, to not know, to not tell. May we break our bubbles. May we add our candles to the parade of light, solid in our identities and aware of our differences. May we not only avoid hurting others in ways that are hurtful to us, but may we work to avoid hurting others in ways that are hurtful to them. May we greet each other with our hands on our hearts, because we are not all the same. Hallelujah. Amen.
As your social action manager, one of the responsibilities that I take very seriously is keeping you all connected to the greater UU world of social action. Some of you last night might have been at the Deeper Than the Skin concert, and I first learned about the Living Legacy project that was mentioned there. Today at 1 o'clock, I hope some of you will want to join me and some other folks from the congregation at the quarterly UU Massa Action working group for Black Lives Matter. So you guys can go to that. And then Reverend Liz is in just a little bit going to tell you about this fabulous opportunity with Beloved Conversations. So there's a brand new website edition that I've made on the social action programs. It's called The Greater UU World of Social Action. And there's a substantial list of all of these other UU social action entities that you guys can take advantage of. And right now, Fred Van Dusen is going to introduce you to two national, but actually with an international scope of UU entities. And let's hear about them from Fred.
I want to speak to you today about two organizations that I'm working with that you too can join. The first was started 4 years ago right here at First Parish, called Reclaim Our Democracy. Over that period, we've organized more than 20 events and actions to both inform our congregation and our neighbors about the issues that have corrupted our democracy. We've also helped them to take action. In 2020, we joined forces with the Racial Justice Action Group to organize a very successful You the Vote program that engaged more than 100 First Parish members and helped elect a new president and several new senators, for that matter. Our Reclaim Our Democracy website has attracted a national and international following of more than 75,000 people. So if you'd like to join our planning team, we meet the second Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. You can find us in First Parish Weekly, FP Weekly. I also want to talk with you about UUSJ, which is UUs for Social Justice. Dozens of First Parish members have participated in their Right Here, Right Now letter writing campaign to members of Congress. In 2019, I helped start the UUSJ Democracy Action Team. And we were very active in supporting the National You the Vote campaign this past year. And we'll be working hard this year to help pass critical democracy reform bills in the upcoming Congress. Our immediate focus is on bills HR 1 and S1 for the PEOPLE Act that will improve election access, integrity, and security, as well as provide much needed campaign finance and governmental ethics reforms. In fact, last month, members of our UUSJ Democracy team had the opportunity to participate in meetings with staff members from 16 different Senate offices, which was a pretty amazing experience. One of the silver linings of the pandemic is that we're now conducting these meetings basically remotely, so you can attend them wherever you are in the country. So in addition to our democracy team, UUSJ has teams working on immigration, the environment, inequality. They've got a small staff and a volunteer governing group that do great things, but they're poorly funded and they would greatly appreciate your donation. So if you can, go to uusj.net, click on the donate button at the top of the screen. There's no question that our democracy has been under attack for many years. We saw it very obviously the last few weeks ago, and it has shown its fragility. It's one of our 7 UU principles, and we must shore it up. So please participate in the Reclaim Our Democracy and UUSJ activities when you can, and don't hesitate to speak to me about both. Thanks very much.
Okay, so now is your opportunity to support the work not only of First Parish in Concord, but also this is the 5th Sunday that we are collecting for the Guatemala Aid Fund. And so in just a minute, you're going to see a text number on your screen. And if it's your first time, you'll need your credit card handy, but you can just type in a 20, a 50, or as you wish to donate to the good work of our church and to the Guatemala Aid Fund. The collection will be split 50-50. You can also mail a check to the church. Fifi and Tina will be opening that and processing that, or you can donate online, use our donate button. Thank you.
As we begin to close our service, I would like to mention a couple of things. Please pay attention to First Parish Weekly. That FP Weekly will come into your email as each week and let you know all sorts of things that are going on. There's lots of Zoom links in there as well. You can also check the First Parish website for things that are going on. Like us on Facebook and check us out on YouTube. The services are up there, so if you miss one or if you'd like to point someone else to that site, they can watch any of our services. One thing Zoom is doing is that they keep sending out updates. So you'll want to keep up with these updates as well. That's the best way to have the latest connectivity with Zoom. So be sure your Zoom account is up to date. Starting this next Thursday, I'm going to do the second half of my class, Bible as Story. This time we're going to be focusing on the Christian scriptures. And this would be a great opportunity to engage with other Unitarian Universalists about the story of Jesus and Paul and all of the apostles and that early Christian church. And it will conclude by Easter. So you'll be all up to date on all of that stuff if you join us. The link will be in First Parish Weekly, and you can come on Thursday night. We are offering a new program called First Parish Family Reconnect. It's from 9 to 9:30 on Sunday mornings before the service. This is a live Zoom meeting with a brief message and activities to engage and inspire you and your children. So get a hold of Dawn or Amy if you'd like to be included in that. And if you're interested after this service in the worship sharing circle, it will begin right after the service and it will finish by 11:30. There will be a login in the chat that is there. And Jane Barnes is here from our standing committee, and she would like to invite you to the online coffee hour. Jane?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Jane, and I am going to be a coffee hour today. I would love you to join me. We can just chat and catch up. You can ask questions. We can complain about the weather. I hope you'll join us. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane. So I want to bring us a little bit broader right now. We had a lot in this worship service. Wonder how you felt about the IDC chart. I do know what it is. The chart and where you felt like you might have been on it. There's no shame in where you were, regardless of where you were. It's important to have the self-awareness first. I wonder about how you felt about thinking about differences in our cultures and religions. Wonder about how you felt thinking about our Black Lives Matter team that's going to be meeting, and the Racial Justice Working Group and UU Social Justice. Just notice what came up for you. And here's an invitation. There is this program called Beloved Conversations that is part of our wider UU resources. It's put out by a team at Meadville Lombard, one of our UU seminaries. And right now, because of the pandemic, it's online. So if you're interested, you can take this program and meet others who are from around the country doing the same racial justice learning and growing. The program starts with a look at our internal understanding of race and ethnicity. So who am I? How do I think about my race? In my case, being white, is it something that I've thought about before? What messages have I gotten as a kid, as an adult? How do I understand who I am and who others are? And how does all of that just live in me? If that's work and learning that piques your interest, or if you're also interested in looking at our congregation and our wider world, then this course is for you. Beloved Conversations starts with this and then branches to those other areas in the second and third semesters. You can take just the first semester, and you're very welcome to do so. Adrian and I are your point people. If you're eager or just a little curious or anything in between, please be in touch with either of us. First Parish has funding to support your learning, and we especially encourage people who are new to this program to get involved. So be in touch. Registration opens tomorrow and lasts just a few weeks. But before tomorrow, we have today. And so I invite you back into this moment and into singing together one more time this morning.
We've been talking about differences and how we are together. And I'd love to end with this singing exuberantly this song by Pat Humphries of Emma's Revolution, written back in 1986. And the part that comes back over and over again, you can sing with gusto, goes, "We will rise all together, we will rise." And then again, "We will rise all together, we will rise." And the words are going to be up on the screen. I encourage you to sing along with me, but especially that part. Thanks, Lily. Can you put the words up now? Thank you. In a many-colored garden, we are growing side by side. We will rise all together, we will rise. With the sun and rain upon us, not a row shall be denied. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. In our many-colored fabrics made from strands of common thread, we will rise all together, we will rise. We can feed our grain to cattle and the rich ones will be fed. We will rise all together, we will rise. Or we'll feed our grain to people so that millions will have bread. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. No more will there be hunger in these strands of common thread. We will rise all together, we will rise. In the cold of fear and hatred, clothed in dignity we stand. We will rise all together, we will rise. We have pieced this quilt together, linking hearts with stitching hands. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We are rise all together, we will rise. We are spirits drawn together tightly by our common threads. We will rise all together, we will rise. From our children to our elders, from all nations we will rise. We will rise all together, we will rise. May respect for all our differences enhance our common ties. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will build a global family strengthened by our common threads. We will rise all together, we will rise. We will rise all together, we will rise.
We will rise all together, we will rise. The particularities in me see the particularities in you. You are my siblings, you are my friends. Let us walk together. Please join in the first parish benediction. Saying, go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.
Oh.